The media loves to say things like Bitcoin is dead, or Bitcoin's only used by criminals, or Bitcoin's a Ponzi. And you know, those takes are either malicious, ill-informed, or both, and largely enabled by financial privilege.
Our next panel is Bitcoin as a Tool for Financial Freedom, moderated by Farida Nabourema, the Executive Director at the Togolese Civil League. Please give Farida a warm welcome.
Good morning, everybody, I'm sorry. Today we're going to be joined by fellow activists from across the world. Thank you all so much. So I'm Farida Nabourema. I am an activist from Togo, the director of the Togolese Civil League. And this panel is about discussing how Bitcoin could be used as a tool for freedom and how it is promoting human rights, democracy, and helping citizens across the world fight for their freedom and their liberty. And today I'm joined by fellow activists from Ukraine, Afghanistan, the West Bank, and Ukraine still. So we have two Ukrainian activists on the panel because Ukraine is going through very specific issues that we are all aware of. And I'm going to start by inviting Mike to tell us a little bit about your work, but most importantly about how Bitcoin has been useful to the people of Ukraine this year, especially in the first hours of the war, when the people needed urgent and immediate response to the crisis. How has Bitcoin been able to provide the needed support in that moment?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the conference day 2. I'd like to start with the probably gratitude to the I don't know, the God, the energy, whatever you call this supreme thing that allowed us to be here, but not in Ukraine, where half of the population is without electricity, water, or heat. Some of the people, like soldiers on the front line, dying or killing. A lot of people were misplaced. And even some people are starving because they have nothing to eat and nowhere to cook that food. So I know that's not the only place in the world that is happening, but that terrible thing is happening not too far away from here. So only 2 hours flight from here, there is war. And we're in the 21st century. This is surprising to me, to be honest, that we are such a civilized civilization that created Bitcoin, the first decentralized financial platform, network, protocol. There's a lot of, you can call it a lot. And in this terrible situation, we're here and we can listen how Ukraine is using crypto to save lives. We can listen to the Afghanistan, West Bank, and again, Ukraine. So my very short story. So on the first day of the war, I created a fund because I knew that my country is in terrible situation because of the corruption, because of, well, for 30 years corruption. That's probably the main thing. So the army was not prepared, the country was not prepared, the people were not prepared. And we created a crypto fund because I own the exchange, Kuna Exchange, so it was easy for me. It was just like, 2 clicks and here we go, we have a fund. And I went on YouTube, on my Telegram channel, saying, guys, we need to help our soldiers because they have nothing, like literally nothing apart from the old AK-47. And then the government joined my fund and then we did it together. So together we collected about $65 to $70 million. Most of it was in Bitcoin. But I'm not bragging, I'm just explaining how it works. So it's possible. So within like even couple of hours, we received couple of millions. Within couple of hours. Mm-hmm. The same thing is impossible in the fiat world. Absolutely impossible. So you won't be able to set up a fund within hours. You won't be able to open an account within probably a month if you're in France or in Switzerland. So yeah, with the crypto, bang, you have an account to receive money. Most of it was in Bitcoin. And I've done this speech quite a few times, so I'll go straight to the point. So the key aspect of the Bitcoin, why it saved a lot of lives. Well, first of all, received most of the donations in Bitcoin. The rest was in the shitcoins. So the key aspect why Bitcoin and crypto and the blockchain is so cool. First of all, you can easily set it up. Second thing, it's fast. So the way it worked in Ukraine, we received the money. So we now need to spend it on, for example, bulletproof vests or helmets. We use that Bitcoin and we send it to a shop in Europe or in US. Most of you know in this room know that the maximum would take about 30 minutes. Most of the shops, or if it's an exchange, they accept only one confirmation, 10 minutes. So the money is delivered within 10 to 30 minutes to the shop that is selling us the bulletproof vest. And then the shop is sending the goods to Ukraine, and as usual, logistics would take, from Europe, it took like 2 days, going to Kiev. In the fiat world, because some payments we had to do in fiat because not everyone is crypto friendly yet. Lugano is doing a great job on that, but it's still in work in process. So we had to convert crypto to fiat. That is fast. Then we had to wire fiat to our humanitarian fund in Ukraine. That takes about 3 days. Okay? And now imagine, I'm going back to my beginning of my speech. You're in the trench. The Russians are shooting you. You don't have bulletproof vests. You don't have a helmet. You have nothing to eat. All you have is an old AK and a few magazines with the bullets. That's it. And we have to tell them, guys, just hold on there. We're waiting for the SWIFT transaction. Yeah, it's so swift that you have to wait just 3 days to arrive it to Ukraine. So once it's arrived in Ukraine, it takes another day because the banks have to accept it, then they have to keep it, then they have to charge something, blah, blah, blah. And then it takes another minimum 3 days to send the money back to Europe or to US to pay for the goods. So altogether, the minimum is 6 days. And the work week is only 5 days. So it takes at least 8 days, physical days, to pay for the goods. And again, the time was very crucial especially in the first hours and days of the war. So 30 minutes for payment, 8 days for payment. Mm-hmm. We can stop here.
Thank you, Mike, for that very clear explanation. What you guys have.
And I would like this applause to go to all the people who donated to our Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. When you were sharing that experience, kind of like made me smile a little, because for Ukraine and for Europe, this war is something that is so surprising in the 21st century. But I come from a region that has been prone to violent conflicts forever. Literally, we have multiple ongoing similar situations in Africa for the past 5 decades and that are not improving. Then to that you have to add natural disasters, authoritarian regimes persecuting people. What you call 8 days in countries like mine can take like 3 months before you get the money to the people who need it. So Bitcoin comes at a time where it's providing urgent support and solutions to people who really need to access money for life-saving situations. And this is going to lead me to Roya. And your work in Afghanistan has been amazing and brilliant. And I want you to walk us through how you have been using Bitcoin to improve the lives of women in Afghanistan and how this has been revolutionary to that space.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to say, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and it's a pleasure to be here today. I think that first I wanted to a little bit talk about Afghanistan and how we started with Bitcoin. I think that for those who are growing up with freedom and opportunity, it may seem difficult to imagine another life. And for those who have access to quality of education and opportunity, operation may seem far away. But I'm coming from a society, the other part of the world that usually 54% of the population living either under authoritarian governments or with high inflations and oppressed society. I came from a society that restricted the education and access for the women's most of the time. And I didn't know until I was a teenager to notice about this magic box that connect you with the other part of the world. And I'm coming from a society that 85% of the population don't have a bank account, and they don't trust the government. They don't, because it's corrupted. They don't trust the private sectors as well. So this is a challenging because the majority of them are the women. And in 2013, we created a platform that allow the young women so that they can share, they can earn money by publishing their thoughts. And in fact, Women.net is allow the user to, that they can create the social impact, but also they can earn money by that. But the problem with this, they could have a voice, but the problem with this platform is that we had hundreds of women who started working for us across the country, but not only in Afghanistan, but in Pakistan as well. And the issue was inability of paying these women. Most of them, they don't have a bank account. And to have a bank account, it's you needed to have an ID identification. Some of our women in Pakistan, they didn't have a bank ID identification to start a bank account. And they had needed family permissions, especially male relatives, that they have to agree that they can open a bank account. So we had this issue. So we have to either send the money to the male relatives, which usually they take the money, and you cannot do anything about that. And then, or using Hawala system, but again, with the Hawala also is very male dominated. So women could not go there to take their monies. And this is make us to think about different ways, and PayPal didn't work in Afghanistan, and mobile money wasn't that successful. So we heard about Bitcoins, and then we decided to immediately to using Bitcoins, and we building a crypto system that use Bitcoin. So Bitcoin actually help us to bypass the physical barriers and social barriers to paying the women. And with the magic of a button, thank you. Thank you. And with the magic of the, a push of a button, the Bitcoin was appear on the wallet of the woman, and they feel more secure and safe, and that they're feeling that they earn the money, that they work on that, and that's how we started with Bitcoin. We're also talking with the shops there at the time that they can using the Bitcoins, and if they wanted to buying a stuff, they can using the Bitcoins. We also developed a system that they can make it to cash, and if in case that they wanted to using the cash. But I found that one thing that was very important is if we wanted to adopt the Bitcoin, for mass adoption of the Bitcoin, we have to focus on education, because education is a key. To Freedom One Plus is a key that we can make an awareness that people knows how to. But many of the people don't know about Bitcoin. But if they know about that, I think that this is something that everybody wants to get their financial freedom.
Absolutely, Roya. Thank you for sharing on that. Fadi, you are an anti-corruption activist.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to you, Fadi, you are an anti-corruption activist and a scholar, and you have faced tremendous persecution from your government. And when people hear Bitcoin, they don't usually see the correlation between anti-corruption or corruption and Bitcoin. Rather, people actually think that Bitcoin is for criminals and for corrupt officials, for them to escape and hide money. But you think quite the opposite of this. Can you tell us more about that?
Thank you, Farida. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to. I really want to thank the organizers, because I've never seen extremely hard-working organizers like Give and Marco and Sasha. So please allow us to give them a round of applause.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing. They answer any message, any time of the day, any zone. So I've never seen anything like this. When it comes to Bitcoin and Palestine, my name is Fadi Elsalameen. I'm Palestinian. I grew up in Palestine, and today I live in the United States. I'm sure most of you heard the term Free Palestine, but from now on, I want you to associate this term with Bitcoin Palestine, and I'll explain why. If my grandmother today was alive, she would be the first person to tell me use Bitcoin. Palestine has always been a politically volatile environment. And so My grandmother would have her own, she was the first coin holder in the family. She would have in her traditional dress, I think there's a picture here, in the traditional dress, she'd have the coins on her head, and these were silver and gold. And so whenever political instability hit the country, they'd either move or they have to relocate. She never had to worry about which fiat system to use, the Ottomans, the Jordanians, the British. She'd just cut off one of her coins, and either we would buy land, or that would be the new way to move through life, regardless of the political instability. So it's part of our DNA. It's part of the, the way to be resilient and to survive the different changes. So that's probably the first reason why I, as a Palestinian, would really be drawn into Bitcoin. There are two other reasons. One is the Israelis, and the other one is the president of the Palestinian Authority. So it's my grandmother, the Israelis, and the president of the Palestinian Authority. And I'll explain the link. What's worse, the Israelis, what's worse than having your own central bank controlling your money is having another country's central bank control your money. So the Palestinians were not allowed to have a central bank because of a political agreement and an economic agreement with Israel. We're not allowed to have a currency. And so whenever the Palestinians would receive aid from either the European Union or the United States, that aid has to be converted into a local Israeli currency and then sent into Palestinian banks. So you can see the constraints and the dilemma that you have to deal with as an Israeli, as a Palestinian, because of the political agreements. And the third point is the president of the Palestinian Authority. And I say this as someone who's worked on peace advocacy between Palestinians and Israelis for the past 15, 17 years. I've worked on anti-corruption and pro-democracy in Palestine for the past 12 years. 84% of the Palestinians believe that the Palestinian Authority is corrupt. And I tried, we have a president today who's been in power for 18 years, does not want to hold elections. He has completely dismantled the judiciary and the legislative system and rules by decree. So the law is whatever he dictates the law to be. So as I started to challenge this situation, I became a target for him and his regime. I've faced death threats, assassination attempts, mainly because I've been just asking for elections and trying to improve the democratic situation within Palestine. And so as a result, when I tried to also work on economic development and bring aid and fund to improve the lives of young people like me in Palestine, banking became a tool, became weaponized to go after people like me. So my accounts were obviously completely shut down, not allowed to work in Palestine, accused of all kinds of fabricated crimes that range from money laundering into, you name it. My personal information, which the bank took from me, like my passports, if you Google my name, you'll get a copy of my passport, was sent online, was published by Al-Akhbar newspaper, which is a newspaper owned by Hezbollah. So today, it makes complete sense for somebody like me to not trust the banking system under any authoritarian regime, because they can easily weaponize that system against you, because they are the law. And if you cross them, they will use the banks against you. So the only way today I work on anti-corruption, democracy, freedom of expression in Palestine is entirely through Bitcoin. So much so that, thank you. So much so that today, and I hope some of you here will be able to help us come up with creative ways how to convert, sunlight or wind into Bitcoin to establish educational funds in Palestine. But these are the 3 points. So if you leave with anything from what I've said, just remember, for Palestine, my grandmother, Israel, and the president of the Palestinian Authority. That's why any Palestinian should always use Bitcoin. So thank you.
Thank you, Fadi. your individual stories are so compelling, but then the one beautiful thing about Bitcoin is that it brings all of us together one way or another. We have lived in a world which for many centuries was controlled by systems that we didn't understand, that decided for us. From one country to another, the stories are different, so the situations are different, but at the end of the day, you realize the power that money has over people's lives and future. And Bitcoin has been uniting actors from different sectors. For the first time, we see activists working with technologists. There's one thing that I always say is that I grew up as a kid hating math, and because of Bitcoin, I started learning about cryptography. And I was like, what is happening here? The one thing that you said that was very touching, Fadi, is how the Palestinian authorities debanked you. This is something that is very common under multiple authoritarian systems. I've heard many activists facing similar situations, my own father included in Togo. He hasn't had a bank account in the past 37 years because the government kept shutting down his accounts whenever he writes about them. And we have on this panel someone else who has faced a similar situation, and that is Lyudmyla, who is sitting at the end of the table. So what I was going to ask you, Lyudmyla, is can you tell us what role has Bitcoin playing in helping you face that persecution, that repression from the authoritarian states that you have been denouncing, which managed to block you entirely from accessing the banking system and make it difficult for you to raise resources and funds to continue doing your work to promote democracy?
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming, for listening to us. I think it's very important to know how your quote save and literally change our world. So my story is pretty weird, just because from one side, I'm Ukrainian, and I'm residing for the moment in Belgium, and I should be okay. I should have bank account. I should be, as a person who is running a human rights organization, be able to pay for salary to my team, to run projects, but I can't, for one simple reason. I'm a target of 3 authoritarian states for my human rights activity, for defending human rights, for defending judges in Poland, for defending lawyers, prosecutors who didn't want to implement politically motivated decisions of a law and justice party in Poland. And in this situation, Poland came into the idea to cooperate with regime of Kazakhstan or Moldova during Plahotniuc time in order to punish me as Ukrainian, being in Poland, one of the most famous organizations delivering humanitarian aid and supporting human rights during Euromaidan and after, just to show example that if Ukrainians are going to participate in peaceful protests in Poland, you are going to be targeted, you're going to be thrown out from you and never allowed to become back. So, thanks God, I have actually good contacts with parliamentarians. They know me for over 7 years for my human rights advocacy. And I had this privilege to be supported both for French government, Belgium government, Switzerland, UK, and Germany. And while I'm a threat to national security, yes, I'm a threat to national security, nice to meet you all, in Poland, I'm national interest in Germany, France, Switzerland, and other countries. And I'm lucky enough being able to coordinate a reform of Interpol, a reform of Schengen information system to exclude possibilities for targeting human rights defenders and those who are politically persecuted. But I didn't was able to understand how actually banking system can be used against me. So how it works? One day, I learned that my bank account was in Belgium, basically terminated. The reason why? Because Poland, together with Kazakhstan and Moldova at the time, since 2008 until nowadays, they keep sending requests to obtain data about my donors, about where I spend my money, and whom we donate money. And they target every single person who was cooperating with us, even cleaning lady. And at that time, we have over 600 volunteers, over 20 persons who work with us permanently, and over 1,000 of donors. All of them are target of this campaign. And we, of course, started to think how we can deal with it. Of course, from one side, we try to speak with regulators and fix this problem, because it's abuse of anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism regulation, where any person can be abusively accused in some kind of threat to national security, being money laundering. I mean, you can create any accusation with no ground, and you just spread it in 28 languages, like it was in my case, and then you endlessly fight with how Google is going to judge you. But you have a simple and very effective tool, a financial tool, which give you back your power, which normally all regimes want to take you off. And this is Bitcoin. And this is how we, as organization and human rights defenders, started to use Bitcoin, because we wanted to be able to continue our human rights work, both in a authoritarian state, but also to deliver our help to Ukraine. And while every organization from Europe, because we're based in Europe, and I used to live in Poland, I live now, as I said, in Belgium, while everyone in Europe was waiting for transaction and sending money to Ukraine, the second day of the invasion of Russia to Ukraine, we were delivering 100 bulletproof vests, 100 helmets, and hundreds of sets of medical sets. And up to now, we delivered 71,000 of pieces of protective equipment, thanks to our donors. It's over 7 million euro, thanks to speed of Bitcoin and Tether. So while everyone was waiting, we were transacting. And this is the reason why I'm saying that we need to cooperate together. We need to explain to regulators that, this narrative that Bitcoin is used only by criminals, or Tether is used for money laundering, it's not true. It's not true. We need to show our examples. We need to show our faces and what social goods it brings to our society right now, how it saves lives right now, how it's work as emergency tool right now. And while EU is pushing for CBDC, it is right time to do it. We talk with EU Commissioner and people from European Commission, with members of European Parliament, and people who drafted MiCA and TFR regulation. They said that, the people who actually work on it, they know very little about these crypto market assets, and Bitcoin particularly. They just know very little or know nothing, but they regulate it. And another funny story, when we came to Commission, they asked us to have, this kind of procedure to register with QR code, and QR code doesn't work. So we just show you a small example who is going to regulate us, and this show how it's important that you basically would not just wait the moment they are going to regulate and create for you conditions, but you work with them, explain with them. Some of them are really good and people, because they also came from the background of activists and journalists and just decent people. So we need to cooperate together to change the environment and not to be in gray zone. We deserve to be not in gray zone, but actually discover all benefits of Bitcoin and actually privately issued stablecoin, because we shouldn't be just rely on CBDC.
Thank you so much, Lyudmyla. Half of the world population, actually more than half, lives under authoritarian regimes, where citizens don't have any control over their lives and their futures, and they don't have a say in the way their governments make decisions for them. And worst of it all is that they can't even hold them accountable. And this has been going on for as far as humanity existed. And today we are seeing a resistance with people rising across the globe, wanting change, demanding accountability, fighting for their rights. And Bitcoin gives us a very powerful tool to attain that freedom. It is helping us break the political barrier, the cultural barriers, the religious barriers, and many other systems of oppression and repressions that have been in place for so long. However, in other parts of the world, it's still complicated. It's very challenging due to lack of access to resources, lack of access to information. As Roya mentioned, education is really important. So I want to follow up on what you said, Roya. What is still making it difficult for the average person in Afghanistan, or the average woman that you have been working with, to be able to access Bitcoin, to spend it, to use it, to earn it? And what do you think can be done to improve access?
Well, currently, as you know, that period of the August of the 2021, the fall of the Afghan government, Taliban took over the country, and the situation in Afghanistan is very bad at the moment. Many of the people, I mean, almost 1/3 of the population, they suffer from food insecurity. 60 to 70% of the people don't have stable houses, and the banking system is collapsed. The social infrastructure is disintegrated, and obviously the education, which is the most important part of the society, also is not working very well, because the Taliban banned the schools for the girls after secondary, and they're trying to bring us back in 1990s. But obviously, at the moment, many of the women activists and the women inside of Afghanistan and outside, they're trying to fighting back with this crisis that is happening for women. I think that the one thing is, before the collapse of the governments, most of the women had access to the cell phone, and men as well, and we had 3Gs. I think it's still internet is working in Afghanistan. The most important part right now is in education. That's why we are working currently on online platform that allows the women to have access to online education in their own local languages, and cryptocurrency is the most important part of that they learn about the financial literacy and how they can use crypto. And I have to mention that when the banking has collapsed, many of people also lost their monies, and all of because we had to start the evacuation of these people who worked during the last 2 dedicated for the U.S. government or for Afghan governments. Overnight, everything has changed. They become poor because the Taliban put in freezing all this banking account, and they have to leave the country without any monies. And I think that's why we're thinking that crypto is the solution. And once you have your money in your wallet and your minds, if you leave the country without any bag or without any things, but at least you have your saving monies with yourself. And it's so sad to see what is happening currently in Afghanistan, what is happening in Ukraine. We are living in 21st centuries, but it's still some people don't want that people have the freedom.
Thank you, Roya. Mike, this is going to bring me back to you. You kind of like explained brilliantly how it has been so easy to raise money in Bitcoin and to support the response to the war in Ukraine. However, I also notice that one of the biggest criticism against Bitcoin is its volatility. It is not stable, and people hesitate to donate in Bitcoin by thinking that, oh, how could you solve a war situation when you receive money that is always going up and down? What answer would you have to people who are still a bit pessimistic about Bitcoin being useful for urgent and emergency situations like yours?
Well, I guess this argument was mainly by the people who don't use crypto. So it's not a problem, they don't have crypto. So I don't see a problem there. But if you don't mind, I would like to ask 2 questions to the panelists. Very interesting. Are there ways of converting Bitcoin to local fiat in both Afghanistan and West Bank right now? Can we do it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, is there like exchanges or
Yes,
OTC
there's
or
exchanges.
Okay, but how do they work if the banking system doesn't work?
I think that they are sending the monies and the cash to Pakistan, and then they're getting back. So banking system right now they don't allow that you can get more than $200 per week, and because there is not enough cash. Right now it's still started to reworking, but they have to send the monies to Pakistan and Turkey. They're bringing the monies back to.
And they bring US dollars?
Yes.
So it's all US dollars?
Yes, they send them, when they're receiving the cryptocurrencies, they have exchanges in Dubai and other countries.
Yeah, I understand how to change that.
Yes.
But
And they're using Hawala, that Hawala is the old traditional system. And it's still, I mean, before when part of the collapse of the governments, the people more trust in Hawala than the bank.
So the main currency is US dollars right now?
And no, Afghani.
So Afghani, but you can change US dollars to Afghani easily then? Okay.
Yeah.
And
Let me actually, it's a very good question. So in Palestine and Israel, while the politics works maybe to divide the people, Bitcoin is actually uniting the people. So you will find Palestinians exchanging with Israelis Bitcoin for fiat or the other way around. So a guy in Hebron will find a guy in Tel Aviv to say, hey, I have some Bitcoin, can you change it into local currency because I need to spend. So it's working on similar techniques like what Roya explained, but even there are Telegram groups that people reach out to each other, and it's slowly developing. It's not where it needs to be, but it's definitely slowly developing in that direction.
Excellent. So we have peer-to-peer on top of peer-to-peer.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. One more minute, I would like to say. Evolution of the humanitarian funds, probably this will be interesting to you as well. So the fund that we started, I started, was fully centralized, obviously. It was on centralized exchange by the 5 people, doing all of this done by the 5 people who controlled the wallets and managed all the logistics, everything. So that system is really fast. We know that the centralized systems could be really fast, but they have a problem of being prone to all kind of problems. Now we don't have such an urgency in Ukraine. So the next fund that we will be launching now would be totally different. It will be more decentralized. So instead of collecting money and then deciding how to spend it, what we're doing, we're empowering the actual beneficiaries of this money. So for the first fund, we calculated that approximately 50,000 people in Ukraine got benefit from the fund. Either they were evacuated, or they received the goods, or they had petrol or food or whatever. Now the new fund, what we're doing, instead of being another centralized thing, what we're doing, we're creating a wallet where people can register, and it will be proved by the government that these people are these people who actually require. So if it's a soldier, we know it's a soldier on the front line. If it's a person who was misplaced from his home because it was destroyed by a Russian rocket, we know that this is the family that actually suffered from this. And then we have the wallet with the proof that these people require these goods, and then people can donate directly. And these people receiving the humanitarian fund, they can spend it on, if you're a soldier, you have a shop where you can buy for crypto, wherever you need. If you need the helmet, you buy a helmet. But if you have a helmet, you don't need another helmet, which is delivered by the by humanitarian funds. It's inefficient, yeah? So he buys the, I don't know, walkie-talkie, or he sends money to his family. It's up to him how to spend this money. So this is what we're doing now. So instead of being centralized, we're going to people and saying, listen, we're creating infrastructure for you. Here's the infrastructure. Here's a very easy wallet to register. It's already done because in Ukraine we have the first digital passport, which is equal to the plastic one. So all our government services are in the phone. So right here with me, I have everything I need from my government. So we're using this system called DIA. And this is how we're going to integrate it, and this is how we're going to do. And then by doing so, not only you're getting the donation to the people, but you're starting the economy, which is also vital to both of your countries. My country is like devastated now. Like half of the budget is covered now by the foreign countries, because we didn't have any taxes, we don't have any economy working. So these people receive the crypto, and then they spend this crypto on the whatever goods and services in crypto. And these private entrepreneurs, then they'll obviously send this crypto abroad and import something that is required to be imported, or some crypto will stay within Ukraine and send to the other entrepreneur who manufactures something in Ukraine. And that's why we also kickstart the economy, which is also important. So not only give donations, because you cannot give always, all the time. So you need to also kickstart the economy, which will, ideally become self-sufficient in the future. And if we can integrate these economies, like your economies to our economy, and that there is a lot of countries in the world which are suffering from authoritarian regime, aggression by the other countries, poverty because of a corruption, and all these problems could be solved with the financial freedom. I totally agree with you. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah. Lyudmyla, I know you have been doing some work to kind of like push the European Commission to provide more support to organizations that are raising resources in Bitcoin and to make regulations that are Bitcoin friendly. What has that effort been like? Do you see regulators, states, governments making an intentional effort to facilitate that?
Thank you for the question. First of all, in order to do what Mike proposed, we need to think about protection of data which receives exchanges, because current MiCA regulation, transfer of funds regulation, anti-money laundering regulation, six package, which is now nowadays is drafted by Commission and European Parliament, they basically give access the same like banking system to transfer data to authoritarian states if there is mutual legal request or there is decision of some kind of court. Sometimes it's even automatically done according to UN conventions. And we have to think about how we're going to prevent it. And this is one of the key issues I'm discussing with both parliamentarians but also commissioners, because I say, look at my example. This is what happened with me. All my data went to Kazakhstan. All my data went to Poland, and all my data went to Moldova during Plahotniuk time. I was married, I was followed in EU, all right? All my donors were under attack. Even if I had decision against, I mean, we won historical court decision against, on defamation case against Deputy Minister of Special Services in Poland. You know, it's kind of first time when foreigner Ukrainian and being in Poland, who was thrown out from Poland with no ground, I mean, just been security of national threat to national security, won this kind of accusation, and I have no remedy existing right now how to defend my name, how to restore my bank account, and I'm a clear example for commissioner, guys, what you are going to do with me? And then, oops, market failure. We didn't know that it can happen. But, you know, I'm an example, and I'm living in Brussels, just a few minutes out of you. I was kind of, you know, not able to use really like basic rights, because banking, it's a human right, and Bitcoin became for me bank of last resort, how I was able to survive. So what are you going to do? Yeah, but you know, we just need to think how to do it, but you need to show us more example. And this is what we try to do, thanks to Alex Gladstein, meeting all of us in Oslo. We create basically coalition. We're talking to parliamentarians, we're talking to commissioner, explain our use case, right? How we as end users are using Bitcoin and also stablecoin, privately issued, for social goods, for humanitarian aid and for human rights in different countries. So not only authoritarian countries, but also EU. And it's changed perception. So we see support from Parliament Assembly of Council of Europe. We have, for the moment, coalition of 30 members of parliamentarians who want to have special report actually analyzing how we use as human rights defenders these tools, financial tools, but also to analyze how anti-money laundering and counterterrorism regulation is abused by authoritarian states to persecute us, like in case of Fadi, it's even a case of assassination attempt, right? So, and this is very important. And from other side, we see, of course, obstruction, like Poland, like UK, unfortunately. The leader of Conservative Party in Parliament Assembly of Council of Europe want to block this report. And we invite everyone who wants to join us in this international human rights campaign in order to promote financial freedom, to promote Bitcoin and privately issued stablecoins. So we have right to use it right now, not in 30 years where, you know, everything will be perfect. But right now, we shouldn't be sent to gray zone. We just deserve it. You know, we pay taxes, we are legitimate, we're doing legitimate activities. We are citizens or residents of the EU. We should be able to use it. That's it.
Thank you, Lyudmyla. We are almost at the end of the session, but I think I would like to part from a positive and hopeful message from Fadi. Can you tell us what hope means to you when it comes to Bitcoin?
So actually, let me direct your attentions to what is happening in Iran. And this is really important. A revolution is happening there, led by women. They're asking people to help them bring in Bitcoin, bring in cryptocurrency to keep this going. So please, if you have any ideas, any connections, any suggestions how to help the people there, reach out to us, because this is very, very important. there's a message within that message. People who are in the most dire, extreme situation, they're looking for any sort of hope. And so far, Bitcoin has been the only shining hope for those who want to be on the map, who want their political voice, their freedom, their democracy to be in place. So please reach out to us. Be part of this campaign, be part of this message. So that's the first point I want to make. The second one, I know Farida, by the way, is doing the Bitcoin Africa conference from December 4 to December 6. Reach out, please come to this conference, be part of it, bring your knowledge, your support, because it's just as important, obviously, that people, not just in Africa, but around the world, understand what is Bitcoin, how it can be used, and how it can transform and change our lives for the better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fadi.
Thank you.
For a lot of people across the world, Bitcoin is about holding and speculating and hopefully becoming rich one day. But for many others, it's about breaking the shackles of oppression and finally being free from centuries of abuse and exploitation. And we, as activists, want to be part of this global movement of liberation. And we believe that liberation starts and will only materialize if people can finally achieve financial freedom. And this is why we want to invite you all to continue supporting the movement and to continue believing in Bitcoin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.